ranking every SmackDown general manager from worst to best. Number 10. Daniel Bryan. One of the newest SmackDown general managers was Daniel Bryan, someone who everybody was excited to see in the role after he was forced to retire from in-ring wrestling, but one person who wasn't excited about it was Bryan himself. While Bryan did a fine job during his spell in charge of the Blue Brand, a lot of his time was spent going back and forth with the commissioner Shane McMahon, who had just as much power, if not more, than Bryan did. It was clear that Daniel Bryan didn't enjoy being in that role and was simply lodging to be back in the ring, which is why it was an amazing moment when he broke out of the GM role to return to in-ring action, leaving the GM role behind to create more history. Number 9. Vince McMahon. The WWE chairman wasn't technically the general manager of SmackDown, but was instead the owner. And after it was revealed Ric Flair was a co-owner, each man got a show each, and Vince McMahon found himself on the Blue Brand. He was the GM in charge when the SmackDown 6 helped build the brand to the level it is seen at today, but his reign as GM was only a short one, as things were changed majorly when Stone Cold quit WWE randomly. McMahon eventually gained full control of WWE from the Nature Boy and quickly allocated general managers to both brands, relinquishing his grip on SmackDown after a fairly uneventful run as GM. Number 8. Booker T. It was always going to be tough for Booker T as SmackDown general manager simply because of when he took charge. With SmackDown clearly the B show and the brand split no longer a thing, the Blue Brand was really used to follow up on Raw but never had any major moments take place. He was a welcome into the role by fans who enjoyed seeing the WWE legend back in a prominent spot, but Booker never really did anything of note either and spent the majority of his time arguing with Teddy Long. Eventually he was fired from the role by Vince McMahon and Booker went off to the commentary booth once again, where he brings his own unique style, but his time as GM wasn't exactly the most memorable. Number 7. Paige. The current SmackDown Live general manager simply hasn't been in charge long enough to warrant a spot any higher on this list, but if Paige continues the way she is currently working, then there's no doubt she'll climb much higher. Paige, much like Daniel Bryan, was placed into the role after being forced into retirement from injuries, yet unlike Bryan, she appears to be relishing the role and really putting in a new spin on it, which has made the entire thing feel fresh. One of Paige's greatest qualities has always been her microphone abilities, and the fact she now gets to focus on that every week interacting with different talents is brilliant because Paige can get physical. It is unlikely we'll see the altercations which have dictated other GM's tenures, and Paige can focus on being the best GM possible. Number 6. John Laurinaitis. Who could possibly forget people power? John Laurinaitis was mainly used as a Raw general manager during his on-screen run, but after the WrestleMania victory when Eve Torres screwed Zack Ryder, Big Johnny gained control over the Blue Brand as well. Much like other GMs, when SmackDown was very much considered the B show, Laurinaitis would spend the majority of his time on Raw, where all the storyline attention went as he engaged in a feud with John Cena that led to one of the worst matches in modern history. On SmackDown, Laurinaitis didn't do much, but he was effective in getting heat from a crowd, even though he was possibly the most boring promo in the company during his spell in charge. Number 5. Kurt Angle. Much like Paige and Daniel Bryan, Kurt Angle found himself in this role due to injury as his neck was in a terrible way and he needed time out of the ring to recover, so WWE worked a leg injury that saw him bound to a wheelchair on screen. Angle was still on the WWE roster and would return to competition later on, which made for an interesting storyline where he did everything in his power to get the WWE Championship away from Eddie Guerrero, which he eventually achieved. Seeing Angle in this role allowed him to showcase his personality, which everyone knew was one of the best things about Kurt, and some of his funniest moments came from this role, making it one everybody remembers. Number 4. Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie McMahon was the first official general manager of SmackDown after being given the job by her father when he finally gained control over the company, and this sparked the first real brand rivalry as she went head to head with Eric Bischoff's Monday Night Raw. It was an exciting time as the GMs would steal talent from each other and try to one-up the other show at all costs, something that WWE would be smart to bring back now as it created for some captivating TV. The United States Championship was also brought back during Stephanie's time in charge, and she did a really good job in the role, as Stephanie's always brilliant on the microphone and a position of power. Number 3. Paul Heyman. Anytime you get a role where Paul Heyman is given opportunities to cut promos and interact with other talent, it's always going to be a positive thing, and this was no different, with Heyman's time in charge of the Blue Brand being very fondly remembered. Heyman's close relationship with Brock Lesnar meant carnage for the Blue Brand, as he helped Brock in any way possible, all while focusing on the GM role itself, which created one of the most entertaining runs in SmackDown history. There might not be many major moments moments you specifically remember from Heyman's role, but he proved just how brilliant he was during this period, and every segment he was in created great entertainment, which is crucial for any good GM. Number 2. Teddy Long. So who's ready for a tag team match, playa? Teddy Long was a fantastic general manager, no matter how many jokes and memes may have been created from his incredibly long tenure in charge of the Blue Brand. Nobody personified SmackDown more than Teddy Long, and the fact he received a Hall of Fame induction, largely from his role as GM, shows you just how good he was in that position, as quite possibly the most likable general manager in WWE history. It was a nice change of pace to see a babyface in the role, rather than someone who would constantly belittle other talent. Even though Long did have several storylines with SmackDown stars, he mainly kept a true general manager's job, solid on the microphone and constantly entertaining. Teddy Long was an excellent GM. Number 1. Vickie Guerrero. When it comes to SmackDown's very best general manager, you don't have to look any further than Vickie Guerrero, who was a complete natural to the role and went on to become the biggest heel in the entire company during her spell in charge. Taking over from Teddy Long, Guerrero had big shoes to fill, and she did so with ease, abusing her power to become a despised figure who oversaw an incredibly exciting time for the Blue Brand that was packed full of talent. Her storyline as Edge's partner with La Familia screwing out The Undertaker was incredibly captivating, and her fantastic promo abilities meant that whenever she was involved, she had a presence, just like all top GMs should. Vickie's not a GM you'll never forget, and that is why she is the greatest.